apart. We're all links in the chain. Hey guys, it's Lilly coming to you guys live from Las Vegas, Nevada.
And it's LindaRose coming to you live from Maine.
So today, instead of doing a normal episode, we wanted to devote this episode to talking about an important issue and some events that have happened through this last few weeks, where we wanted to talk a little bit about Roe versus Wade being overturned.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really important topic that, the first thing we want to start off with is talking about why we created the show and where the Orchid Time name came from and everything. But we mainly created this show to empower women in industries because we're overlooked a lot. And Roe versus Wade being overturned has really been a big disappointment at the moment for women.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something it's really disappointing. It's a step back in rights, and that's so sad because it's scary to think about if this is going to happen, if this happened, what stuff could happen in the future. So that's why it's really important that we use our voices and we raise awareness and we spread this issue and this topic as much as possible, because otherwise no change will happen if we don't use our voices.
Yeah, so in some states and countries and other places, actually fighting for abortion rights and women's rights, you can actually get arrested for. And there's been some videos of people being shown of those people that are fighting for it being arrested.
Yeah, it's super sad because a lot of these are peaceful protests and they're not doing any harm. They're just raising awareness. So that's why it's really important that we come on here. We're going to be talking today about some different ways people can take action and get involved if they want to, and just giving some information too. We have a special guest on today to answer some of our questions about what this means.
Yeah, I think I just want to talk a little bit about what Orchid Times is and why we both kind of started it and where it kind of came from, because I think our message for the show is really important. So, Lily, do you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were brainstorming names for this because when we started doing the show, we knew we wanted it to be women empowerment based. So we came up with the name Orchid Times because orchids, we want to do something because both of us have flowers in our names, and orchids are a flower that shows maturity, toughness, and strength.
And with our show, with our message being empowering women and making us not so much overlooked in the industries, especially music and artistry industries. It Orchid plus the flowers in our names, Orchid just kind of seemed the right fit for that.
Absolutely. And for people who are watching right now, it would mean so much to us if you guys would share this stream out, because as much people we want to be this message to reach as many people as possible. So just tag your friends and family and share this, and that means so much to us.
Right. Do we want to bring Elana on now?
Yeah, let's go ahead. So we're going to bring Elana Lange on. She's going to give us some of her viewpoints. These are in no way legal advice, so we're just having her on to give her viewpoints and answer some of our questions. Hey, Elana. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, ladies.
Well, thank you. So we're going to go ahead and start. Feel free just if you have anything you want to add to for our first question. For our first question tonight, what does it mean when a case is overturned?
Okay. Well, so basically what it means is that the case no longer exists. So, in the case of Roe versus Wade, we had those protections until Friday when the case was overturned. And once the case is overturned, then it's not something you can rely on anymore. So in this particular case, what it means is that there's no federal protection for abortion. It means more than that, but that's the gist. So because there's no federal protection, it goes to each state to then decide what they feel is in the best interest of their contingents. So, like in the opinion that was written about Roe versus Wade being overturned, they do talk about how this is more appropriate for each state to determine based on who lives in that state and who they elect to represent them.
Thank you so much for explaining that to us. I know that was something that I did a lot of research on because I wasn't totally sure. And it's really sad that that case was overturned because it took away a lot of rights.
Absolutely. For our next question, we wanted to ask if the overturning of Roe versus Wade can be overturned again.
Can it be? Yes. So when something is decided by the Supreme Court, typically it's decided either on constitutional merit. So like in the case of Roe versus Wade, they were talking about how the 14th Amendment grants protection, but privacy rights and protections for privacy rights. When they determined that the privacy rights existed, though, it's not something that comes directly out of the Constitution. So the Constitution does not make a decision about abortion. What it does is it says it's kind of like a puzzle. You know, they're putting pieces together to create what seems to be the way that the Constitution would mean. So the Constitution is a living thing. Some people believe that, you know, it should be taken as the founding fathers intended, but some people believe that, you know, everybody believes that it should change based on the times. So in overturning, in this particular opinion, in overturning it, one of the things that they had said, the Supreme Court said, is that they found this privacy right, which is the right to abortion. It was 2 cases. I'm not going to go into all the details, but basically what happens is because they created this based on privacy rights and used a number of amendments to build that on, the Supreme Court decided that it was too far a stretch. So what you look at is you look at the other privacy rights that were created the same way. Unfortunately, you know, my opinion and the opinion I believe of the show is a progressive opinion. For progressives, this is not a positive thing because things like gay marriage, things like contraceptives, other things like that were created using the same privacy rights that this was created. So because this like Jenga tower, we'll say, crumbled, it's going to be easier than for other for it to happen in the case of other you know, to be far-reaching enough to go to anything else that was also created that way. Does that make sense? It's kind of confusing. Like I myself had to read, you know, I didn't read the full opinion, but what I did read, I had to read a couple times.
Yeah, definitely. It does make a lot of sense. And thank you so much for coming on and explaining it to us. Because I know before I dig down and did a lot of research, it was really confusing. So it means a lot that you would come on and just explain some of this to us.
You know, it's actually been really good for me too. because it forced me, I've been kind of hiding from the media and the news to some extent lately. So it really gave me the impetus, I'll say, the what I needed in order to get myself to actually look further into it, because keeping in mind that this is a progressive show, it's a very upsetting it's very upsetting and disturbing.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to another question, what could the process look like trying to get an overturned law back?
Okay, so the way one would go about getting an overturn, or honestly, it happens so rarely. Like it's something that happens so rarely, and normally what would happen would be that the court itself would change, right? So like right now, the court has changed such that we have such a conservative court that it was the time that they were, able to have this opinion be what it is, to overturn Roe versus Wade. I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, absolutely. How will the overturn? Oh, sorry. What could the process look like trying to get an overturned law back?
So normally, I would say if you are trying to get an overturned law back, and the reason why I say about the court is because normally you go to the court, right? You have another case. It starts, from the beginning, federally or state, in the very first court, and it builds its way up, and then the Supreme Court would take whatever the case is, because they maybe want to set precedent, or they maybe want to, for some reason want to highlight the case. So in this instance, the court's it's pretty stagnant. And the problem is that because it just changed so that this ruling could occur, I mean, just honestly, I don't, if something else goes back up to the court's not going to overturn themselves, overturning something that, like, let's be honest, they've been waiting for this moment. So they're not going to overturn themselves. So then what is another way that it can happen? Another way that it can happen is through legislation. Typically, the Supreme Court will find something that is not exactly the same as what the Constitution is. So, like, let's say they'll say, yes, in this particular case, you do have this right as per the Constitution. However, that's not exactly this case. So that's one way that they could decide. But another way they could decide is to say that the Constitution doesn't actually grant that. So, like I was explaining about the Jenga tower before, this decision is basically saying that the Constitution isn't meant to build this Jenga tower to give privacy rights. So, kind of shoots down this Jenga tower and just lets, So what do? You go to try to clarify things in the Constitution, which I don't see a Constitution amendment really happening, but that would be one way. Or if something's based on the Constitution, you could, like I was reading today about codifying abortion or something around it, so it doesn't rely on this privacy. We'll just call it a Jenga tower, because that's what I've been, a visual I've been using. So, the way that something that would be less heated of less controversial would probably just go through the court and then change. Something like this, to to be honest, the biggest way that we can change this is to vote in the midterm elections. Like, just being straight up honest, how is it going to change? Of course, not going to overturn themselves. This honestly has been waiting, by a certain group of Americans. They've been trying to overturn it since it, since it was instated in 1973. So, that's not going to happen. Are they going to create legislation or something else? They were talking about it, they being Congress, they tried. We don't have a majority. We have a majority, I believe, in the House, but not in the Senate. So, we just don't have the votes. So, the only way to do it really is to get the votes. Like, some people might think that the president can just say, okay, Supreme Court, you're wrong, but that's not an option. You have to, there's so many determinables, different things that could possibly happen. Just in this case, I don't see happening. It. We really miss Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so sad. She was such a great judge on the court. And I was researching some, and with the majority as it is, it's almost scary to think about what other laws they may start looking into again. So.
Well, and the other thing also that people should think about is it's not just abortion. I think people use this as a hot topic. Oh my God, nobody really is going to understand, what's going on if we just it's about abortion. It's about killing people. It's about, let's make this as controversial and as infuriating as you possibly can to confuse what the actual what is actually occurring. And some of the things that are actually occurring is, you're looking at the 14th Amendment, you're looking at privacy rights. That's really important. I don't want somebody to tell me what I can and can't do with my body, just because I'm female. That's it used to be that women were property. Well, we're not property anymore. So it's just very upsetting. I have to say, personally, also, I'm really upset because there's so many laws that women got in 1973 and 1974, which I was born in 1974. So in my own lifetime, I'm actually seeing this be overturned. This crazy. It's something that, women worked so hard for, and we were so, people died, people fought until their death. It's such a serious thing. Women were, thrown in jail. Women were, they try to make it look prettier, but it isn't. And now, 40 some years later, in my lifetime, it's gone. So yeah.
That's what I was thinking about.
The other thing also that I don't think people really think about that much is that, so I was raised Orthodox Jewish. Judaism, you have to have an abortion available in certain cases. There are instances under Jewish law where an abortion is actually necessary that might not rise to the level of the mother's, it not being a life or death, but being like that. In Jewish law, you protect the mother above all. So I know that in Florida, you're going to ask me this question later, Lily. I know you are. Maybe I should hold off on this.
No, you're fine. You can answer it.
So it's about the trigger laws, right? So as soon as the decision was made on Friday, this is just one instance that I have very mixed feelings about. There is a the governor of Florida was getting all ready. Like, I know he had this plan for a really long time, just waiting for it, Roe versus Wade to be overturned. Well, they were so restrictive, the laws that he wants to put in place, that his synagogue is actually suing for religious freedoms, because this is this is their decision isn't technically a violation of church and state, but abortion being this controversial, heated subject, that has nothing to do with me as a Jewish person, because in some instances it's necessary. In some instances, maybe if I had a child, I wouldn't be risking my life. But just take me for an example. Again, I'm late 40s, I'm ill, all of these things. So there are so many other people who are of childbearing years that really shouldn't be having children. So
Yeah, it was such an important topic to bring up with the trigger laws, and along with, we were talking earlier about right to privacy. It's such important issues, stuff like that. Stuff aside from it, to also think about, if they're going after, and they did Roe versus Wade, what was going to happen to some of the other laws based off of that right to privacy.
Well, so we know that some of them are going to, they're going to go after the hot issue. So of course that's going to be gay marriage. Of course it's going to be and it's ridiculous, because I don't know percentages, but I know for I personally, I've been on contraceptives since I was, 17 or something, and it's 100% because I have endometriosis. And it's the only thing. I guess now there are more options, but 10 years ago, when I had all of my medications lined up by my doctor, it was either that or be in a pain clinic, which basically means that just for me personally, a week out of the month, 1 week out of every month, right? I'm a trial attorney at the time. How can you have a whole week of work? You're just on oxy, and you're just basically stoned out of your mind on pain meds, so that you're not in an extreme amount of discomfort. And everybody should be able to get contraceptives. Everybody, these should be rights. These should be actual written rights, and not things that they have to create Jenga towers to protect. But but because they're not, who knows what's going to happen to people who take it for any reason why you would take it. So many reasons. It's just very upsetting.
Absolutely.
And then again, the freedom of religion thing really weighs heavily on my mind, because I don't want to be inflammatory, but this is not a common thing. It's not a common thing to have rights and then have them taken away. And it's not a common thing to be, our country has been not following its normal pattern for a certain period of time. And I don't mean that as putting my opinion is right and you guys should do what I say, but things are just different. When I don't know when it's I keep trying to say something that's a little bit better, that it affects so much. I don't know. Honestly, as a Jewish person, I'm afraid for my religious freedom. So to me personally, everybody's yelling and screaming about it being a women's issue. It's a women's issue. It's a man's issue. It's an everybody's issue. And it's an issue that's not just, not just abortion. It's not something that doesn't affect you. It's not something that some girl in the street who wore fishnets one night, whatever. No, it's anybody. There are people who like my mom almost died with my sister. I had to feed my sister like the first couple years of her life because my dad was working and my mom was too sick. So, I mean, there are all kinds of reasons why people need certain things, and to just, discount all of that because I can't help honestly but think it's some sort of red herring, if that makes sense. Something like, look over here while we do other things over here. So everybody just needs to keep their eyes really, really open, vote.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much. That's definitely, I love that topic that you brought up. It's everybody's issue. It's not just one person's issue or one majority of a person's issue. It's everybody's. So we're almost out of time for this segment. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about this. It was so informative and so important.
Thank you both. It's very, very, I wish I had something better to say. So thank you both.
We wanted to do a quick moment of silence for the loss of some of these rights. Would you like to join us?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So we're going to do a quick moment of silence, guys, for the loss of these rights. So if anybody would join us, that would be really great. Okay, so that ends the minute. Thank you guys all so much, and thank you for participating in with us. We wanted to go ahead and do a quick little bit of discussion. We had a few different points we had brought up before we close out this episode. Linda, did you want to start?
Sure. I think this is just something I saw a TikTok video. I'm not sure who it was. I have it saved in my saved, but she pointed out the fact that if a kid, like a little girl who maybe around teenager, around 15 or 16, wanted to go adopt a kid, they would have been told that they're not financially nor emotionally stable enough. But now if a girl per se gets sexually assaulted or anything like that and is ended up with this kid and wants an abortion, she then has to keep the child even though she may not be financially or emotionally stable enough. And something about those two, just they don't add up together. And I think that also it's disappointing of the fact that the people that overturned, a majority of the people that overturned this right were men who mostly percentage of the time don't go through there are some men that go through the sexually assaulted, but a majority of it is women, and then having to keep the child of their assaulter or their attacker is very disappointing and hard to go through, especially since they didn't have a choice.
Totally, that's such an important topic to bring up because it's just sad. It's woman's choice what to do with bodily autonomy, so it's something that is a right, and it's so sad that it was taken away. And that's why it's so important to use our voices. There's a lot of things that we can do to get involved and to help change these and raise awareness to this issue. I want to just take a second to go over some stuff that people could do, and then we had a video we wanted to share before we close out. One thing that's important for getting involved is to make sure you use your voice. You can post on social media, call the senators in your state, write letters to government officials, and raise awareness just by talking to people. Go live, talk to people, talk to your friends and family, just raise awareness in whatever ways you can.
Another way you guys can help is in the description of our episode. We have a lot of links, including one that is a petition that you can sign to hopefully help us help women and everybody that is going through this, religion and anybody in those states. Hopefully help us do something about it.
Yes. And then you can also protest. I know I've been wanting to get out there and start protesting. So in the link, we have a place where you can find events and protests that are going on near you, along with ways to safely protest. And there's just a lot of links in there. Make sure you look at those. We have the links in those descriptions for finding protests near you. And then you can donate. We have a few different places. I know the Center for Reproductive Rights is a really great place. And donations are really helpful to help raise some money for getting to be able to combat and raise awareness for these issues.
And you can also look at any place. It's Planned Parenthood places. You can also look at those since this right was taken away. Abortion may no longer be an option for a lot of. It's really no longer an option for so many people, and Planned Parenthood and getting that help and everything can also help if you don't have that choice.
Absolutely. So closing out this episode for our last thing, I wanted to go ahead. So there's a viral story on TikTok right now. Her name's Lilly. She's a 13-year-old girl who was doing a peaceful protest, and she got arrested at that protest. It's just really important. This is a great thing to keep up with the news in here, especially for those of us who are wanting to go do protests, to watch these stories and raise awareness and share these out, because it is really important to protest. And this was a peaceful protest. It was just sad to see some of those things happen. So we're going to go ahead and queue up this video. And if you guys can, make sure to share the links and stuff. That video is such an important message. We just need to, so anybody who is able to do anything to help this, so helpful. Do whatever you can. We have these links in there, so you guys do have options for anybody signing petitions, raising awareness, protesting. It's all so helpful.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on this week's episode. We'll see you guys next week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time and 4 PST.
Yes. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night, and thank you so much for being here and supporting. And please make sure to share this video out. As many people as can see it is so great. Thank you guys again so much, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.